Bernie Sanders, back in the 2016 presidential primary race in the Democratic side, took a lot of heat from some of his critics. They kept calling him a one-trick pony because his big thing at the time, and I admit he kind of talked about it a little too much instead of going into other issues as frequently as he should have, was income inequality. That was the thing he talked the most about. It's not the only thing he talked about, but he spent a lot of time talking about that. And it turns out those warnings that Bernie Sanders was giving us in 2016, and actually well before he even decided to ever run for president, turns out we really should have taken those seriously. Because according to a new study, the average American family here in the United States can't afford a home in roughly 70% of counties in this country. So you have roughly half of the country can only afford to live in 30% of the country. That 70% belongs to the top 1%, or anyone who makes slightly more than median average household income here in the United States. Here's the problem with this, obviously. This shows, first and foremost, that our income gap is getting worse. Secondly, it shows that there really are some areas of this country where there is this income exclusion. If you don't make up to a certain amount, you can't even afford to live here. And we're talking about some major cities, San Francisco, New York City, obviously, Brooklyn, a lot of cities in Hawaii, obviously a little pricey for the average person. But then there's other just dots throughout America. These are not big industrial areas with, massive skyscrapers. They're just regular old towns that the average American could not afford to live in. Nobody in this country should be priced out of a city, of an entire city, of a county. No one. When we hit that point, which we have according to this new study, we've failed. Capitalism has failed. Our entire system has failed. If there are areas of the country, entire counties that have their own representatives, that more than half of the country can't even afford to buy a home there, yeah, something screwed up along the way. But that is exactly what we're dealing with today, with 70% of the area of this country. 70% reserved for the top 1%. But here's what gets me about this story is that it talks about incomes are rising. The incomes are going up a little bit. No, they're not. They're not, folks. And I'm tired of having to keep telling you how this works, but I'm going to once again tell you how this works. When they talk about incomes going up, by 1 or 2%, and yet any poll out there of just workers shows that no, their wages have not increased, it's because when you factor in income increases and wage increases, you also factor in the people who make millions of dollars a year. So when you see those stories about the CEOs getting the 30 million, 40 million plus dollar bonuses, those are also factored into wage growth in the United States. If you were to take that crap out of there, which it should be taken out of there, real wage growth in the United States would look like this and just keep going down. Because that's what's actually been happening to the workers, the people who keep the country running. And now, because of that, there is 70% of this country that is officially off limits for us to go try to buy a home there. And that is exactly what the top 1% has always wanted. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.